How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we're on the third episode of my reboot of my Cube Draft 101 series, going over cube drafting, helping you out with understanding what cube drafting is, and if you do try it out or want to try it out, some tips and useful hints to help you improve yourself and have a fun time drafting. And with the last one, we went over how to draft, so going over some tips and pointers and relatively what you want to do going into a draft for a cube draft. And now what we're going to do with this current episode, being episode 3, is covering how to build a cube. So if you were ever interested in building your own cube or want to give it a try, instead of just basically finding one, either my own one that is on the I can't remember if it's on the channel, but I know it's in one of the Facebook groups. You can go ahead and try and build your own, because there's many different ways to build a cube, and everybody has different preferences. So before we get into the video, feel free to like the video if you do enjoy it and find it useful. Comment down below if there's any questions at the end of it that I haven't answered throughout this video for this particular topic. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, keep you updated with my videos as when they drop, and keep up with any cube drafting information that I'm putting out more now, going back to the roots of the channel, and it helps me get to my goal of 1,000 subs, which we are currently just over halfway there. So that would be grateful to help, and if you do, thank you, and I very much appreciate it. So let's get into the video and cover how to build a cube. So cubes are built by their creator, who chooses a collection of cards based on their vision for the cube. And a cube can include specific archetypes, focus on a particular format, be bound to certain rarities, be cards of just one color, or they can just simply be cards I wanted to put in the cube. And traditionally, it's standard that cubes are singleton, with no more than one copy of each card included, and this is generally referred to as Highlander, which we'll go over more in a later depth in a later video. So we'll go over more about what really Highlander is and the benefits of it. And the theme, size, number of copies of a card, or even the card legality, is ultimately subject to how you want to build your cube. Like, if I give an example, like I'm probably going to do throughout the series, giving examples of my own cube, is if you go to Highlander, you're going to want to put one of each card in the cube, so you're not going to have any more than one copy. But if you want to focus more on certain archetypes, you might put like some key cards, like key consistency cards for a given archetype. You might have them multiples. Or even you might have cards that you want to put cards in your cube that are banned in constructive play, and that's fair enough. You can do that. Just because what you'll soon learn if you try and build a cube or try out cube is some cards that are banned in constructive aren't actually that powerful in cube. They're not as strong as they are in cube as they are in singleton. Constructive, not singleton. And one way to look at building a cube drafting is that it's a form of endless possibilities, and if game design interests you, which if you're building a cube it probably does, you can build a cube and essentially create an environment to your own making, or as a drafter you can get to explore the cube just like a brand new set. Like I know some people, when it comes to a brand new set, they get excited about the new archetypes, want to try it out and play it. You kind of get that thing when you go into a brand new cube that you've never been played before. And you often get to play with some of the most powerful cards printed throughout the Dragon Ball Super card game. As I said, you can include banned cards, and sometimes you you might have come in at a point when after a card has been banned and never found out how great the card is, and you might find out how great and how fun it is in the actual cube. And also, as well as that, a cube allows you to experience Dragon Ball Super a little bit differently to the standard constructed format, which could be a nice thing to take a break. And cube drafting is generally enjoyed for a good reason, as many who have tried it will tell you, and they all have a different reason for why. So if you go to my Discord, you'll find a section where we've got the cube drafting for when I do my tournaments and stuff like that, and you'll find a lot of people are in there and they really love cube when they've tried it out, and they even give you a reason why they like the cube and why they enjoy it. And now, cubes can generally come in different sizes. So one thing to remember is that an optimal draft environment consists of 8 players, each opening 6 booster packs of at least 12 cards, each to make your 72 card pool. And that is where, from our previous episode, where I said 576 cards comes from, it comes from 8 times 72 card pool. And you can increase the number of cards per pack if you like, as long as the card pools are a multiple of 8, because as I said, it's the optimal amount of people you want for a draft, 8 people. But outside of that, there are no real rules to building a cube. You can stretch your game design muscles and create a cube from scratch, or build a cube from someone else's list and just either keep it how it is or customize it, just like change it up if you want to start there and don't want to start from scratch. And with cubes, they generally come in 2 categories for 2 different styles. So you either got the standard version or you got the custom. So you either got standard cubes or custom cubes, and that's what we're going to go over in this episode, covering the different types. So we'll start off first with the standard cube. So as I mentioned, a regular cube is generally Highlander, which is made up of 576 cards and is made up of a combination of the most powerful cards throughout Dragon Ball Super card games history. And a Highlander cube lets you play a large list of cards you would not usually play, because you can only include 1 copy of each card, or be able to play in a standard constructed format. So what I mean by the first bit about the cards you wouldn't usually play, like there might be cards that come through that seem very strong that you have never had a chance to play. Like one of my favourite ones is from set 4. There was a Kefla that was a 5 cost that had a really good effect where it's dual attack, and whenever it attacks it gains 5k power and draws you a card as well. And in normal format, costing 5 with only being able to go in by Patora, being either 3 or 4 cost Patora, then go on top of either a 1 KO and 1 Khalifa, you can't really pull that off like consistently or properly in a constructed list. So it's something I wouldn't normally play in constructed. But in cube, if I could draw into it, I can drop that, just basically pay 5 energy to play it out and actually have fun playing that card. And then you get some things like, as I said, in constructed as well for the second part, being able to play stuff you wouldn't normally play in constructed, because say it might be banned, limited, or just not viable. And in the cube you get to have that experience of playing all those things as well. And it also keeps a better balance of power among the introduced archetypes, and provides more diversity in gameplay experiences as well. So that's one of the big benefits about standard cube. So hopefully that inspires you to try out standard. But if you feel like standard's not for you and you want to try out something more a little bit different, then that's where we have the custom cube. So the custom cube is really to explain the custom cube, it is any cube that strays from the standard cube design. So anything that's not from the standard design is technically counted as a custom cube. And most often these are with themes that differ from the strictly powerful cards or just not being Highlander. And good examples of custom cubes are ones like a Pauper cube, which is essentially a cube that does not include anything higher than common or uncommon, or you can even just keep it just common. But generally you might want to keep it common. Uncommon is where you can keep it with Pauper cube to keep it as a Pauper, and you just don't want anything rare or higher in the cube. That even counts promos and expansions as well. And if you want to go hardcore, you can go with just common cards, but then there are some nice uncommon cards you probably want to include in it that could still be fairly decent with it. So that's one type you can have if you just want to change it up a bit. Or you can have, so like I've got currently, I've got an archetype cube, which is a cube that's focused on certain archetypes. So normally you've got 8 different archetypes spread out for it, or maybe a little bit less, or maybe a bit more. And they focus around those archetypes, including with the leaders, whilst the leaders that go well with those archetypes or benefit them, to have a little bit of variation. So you can, rather than just have a basic Highlander cube with just having 1 of each card to basically just build one big unique deck, you can have a custom cube focus on archetypes to kind of have fun. Like you can pick some archetypes that you don't normally see in constructive play, like say for example the Great Apes, and be able to build a deck of Great Apes to try that out, which is a lot of fun. And another one is like a format cube. So this is one that I've been thinking about pitching out. You can have it like a format cube, and this is technically regarding making a cube set in a certain format throughout the Dragon Ball Super card games history. Like one I thought that could be useful is say back from set 4. It was during the format when the original SS3 leader, the SS3 Goku, the blue one, was the most played leader and basically the best leader at the time, because it just allowed you to play a strong leader lets that you use go only to 6 energy, so keep 6 energy, and then enter and restand any 3, and just allowed you to have the best use of any of your energy management in the game. And what made it so good was not just that, but also all the different playable color combinations for it. Like with it's a blue layer, so you can play it just mono blue if you wanted to. You could play it a very strong way in blue green, blue red, or blue yellow. So every different color combination was alive for it. So it made for a great version of deck building. I think the only issue with it was that it was so strong that in constructive play, people weren't building decks unless it was that lead, which meant no other lead was really played, but you had a nice bit of consistency, and it was quite a skillful format. So you can build formats like that based on certain formats if you want for a format cube. But if you decide to build a cube from scratch, then it'll be a process of exploration and iteration. And whether you start with a concrete theme, a list of your favorite cards, or just a pile of cards you have lying about, balance among colors and archetypes is the best way to have an enjoyable cube, and balancing colors is easier to begin with, so from the start. So that brings us to our last topic, being making your cube list. So when it comes to making your list, for a 576 card cube, you want 119 of each of the 4 colors, being red, blue, green, yellow. And then you want, because they're the main colors, and then you want about 28 black cards for support. So you want too many, because even though black is an actual color in the game, would actually support to build a proper deck. There's not too many that are generic, that aren't just locked, or like having to build black energy. Like more colorless would be helpful. So if you wanted to input that, you could as well. You just have to change up the numbers. But generally, if you're just going with a standard one, 28 black cards for support that support any of the leaders and strategies would be useful. And then you can have around 72 cards from multicolor, just to allow you to still have options for building mono, and also if you want to go with dual color or more than one color, you have that little bit of support in the multicolor cards to help with as well. And that would be a solid start if you want to go with those numbers. And this can include leader cards too, if you plan to draft with them with the rest of your cards. But as I said, be mindful that with the leader cards you include, to start off with, you might want to include something more generic, some more generic ones, until you're more comfortable with your construction. So in the beginning, maybe go for some that are a little bit more generic, that can go with almost anything, and then as you get comfortable with deck building and you find out exactly what you want to do with your cube, you can go to bring in certain leaders as you get more comfortable. And then once you have your list, it's then time to essentially start playing. It may be that you love your cube and haven't decided to make any changes with it, which is great. That's fantastic. If you can, as soon as you've built it and tried it out, you love it, don't want to really change it. But as you play it more, you may want to start to tweak it. Maybe one archetype is a cut above the rest. There's one that never quite synergizes enough that makes people want to draft it. I had that experience with the brainwash stuff. Kind of like had that in that gives them a bit more diversity, but then end up taking it out. And you might notice that there are a handful of cards that never really get played. There is normally cards that sometimes aren't drafted, aren't played, but sometimes they're still there because they're good to have in there. They're good, useful cards, but sometimes they might just be played, and you might want to find out the reason. And as well as that, you might have it where a new set was released and you want to bring some more of the cards in. So like you might want to update every time a new set comes out. You will make every set maybe update it a little bit more. But either way, that isn't a bad thing. It just means that you're trying to improve it to a level that you're happy with. So you can, as I said, you can be happy with it straight away, or want to improve it until you are happy. And that is it. So I hope this has been helpful in helping you kind of understand the cube, or even like wanting to try it out and have a go at building your own cube. But just remember to check back soon from the next Cube Drafting 101 video, and I'll be covering the next topic, which I think it will come to it. Just thinking about what potentially the next episode will be, because currently I'm just trying to like reboot the series, but we'll have a look. And I think for the next one we might try we've covered we might cover the different types of cubes more in depth next, because we've covered in this topic what the different types of cubes are, and we might cover different types, and not by just what standard and custom is, but more looking at different types of cubes like the format cube and things like that, having more in depth look at those. But before I finish, just make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed it, and if it was helpful, drop a comment down below with any thoughts and suggestions, and if you have anything that you're confused about that I've covered, I can answer that as best I can. And as well, lastly, remember to subscribe to the channel to keep updated with my future content, and if you're interested in cube drafting, updated with my cube drafting videos. So that is all for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.